Hemp Wizard products are proudly used by former New England Patriots linebacker Brandon Spikes, Suicide Silence guitarist Mark Haleman, Canadian actor Jackson Rowe, Mr. Grimm and Noctis the drummers of Walking Corpse Syndrome, guitarist and vocalist Bub Heaston and bassist Ted Wilson of Black Sasquatch, guitarist and vocalist Adam Hines of Fester, Aaron Witzel, guitarist of Cropsy Maniac, Roy Boy, host of the Licking County Metalheads podcast, Crash Fistfight and Maxine Maxwell, host of the Musicians Hangout podcast, Jeff Towlinski, host of the Hard Rockin' Sports Show. You too can give your beard the magic touch and treat your skin to
Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Sunday Audible live this Saturday, February the 10th in the year of our good Lord 2024. We welcome you guys to what could be our final show of the 2023-24 season, here on the Sunday Audible. We'll try to squeeze in maybe close it down, and then of course we'll be back. So we got drafts and combines and stuff will pop up along the way, but this will pretty much put the season to bed. And of course, we're here to celebrate the Super Bowl 58. That's right, Super Bowl 58 out in Sin City, Las Vegas. And of course, we're looking forward to a good Super Bowl. I'm going to get my guys' take on this because I feel like there's no juice for this Super Bowl, but we'll talk about the game. We'll break down the bets, some prop bets. We'll talk about the NFL honors. We had some stuff that maybe we'll disagree with, Hall of Famers. So we'll get to that real quick. I want to give you a couple fun facts before I bring on John and Jeff. The cost in 1967, the first Super Bowl, the cost of a 30-second ad on TV was $42,500 per 30 seconds. Today, it's $7 million per 30 seconds. Number of cameras used in 1967 were 11, and that was 2 networks. Number of cameras used today, 165 cameras at the Super Bowl. Back then, there were two networks, CBS and NBC, both simulcast the game. Today, it's just CBS. Tickets back then were $12 for the game. Today, face value $950 to $8,000 per seat. Back then, 2 networks, 50 million people. It's a good amount of people for a Sunday back in 1967. Today, they expect 120 million people, not counting people in bars, multiple people in houses. You're talking about 200 million people. But no, let's say 150 million people watching this game tomorrow night. And the winning shares, the players from the Packers who won the game got $8,600, while the Chiefs got $5,308. Today's winning share is $164,000, quite a bit more, and even the losers get $89,000. So there's some fun facts. We are the Sunday Audible, and I will be joined in a second by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Towlinski, and of course, the ever fashionably dapper Mr. John Marhefka. Let's get Jeff and Basil. I see Basil hanging in there, so let's get Jeff and Basil on there. What's up there, Hefe? How are you, pal?
All right, what's going on, man? I gotta hold the dog for a while. I have a rogue cat in here someplace. Just keeps messing with the dog, so the dog is rescued.
Poor Basil needs to be rescued, but that's okay. Let's get on our other pal and our other co-host, the big shot down at RFL Records and the host of the Talk in the Fast Lane podcast. He is the ever designed dapper. And I think this is the true definition, Jeff, of wearing your heart on your sleeve, because the man came dressed with, I'm assuming, the team he's been rooting for or pulling for in this one. He's, of course, our good buddy, Mr. John Mahefka.
Morning, guys. How are you?
What's up, man?
Johnny, you are always fashionable, John. You're always fashionable.
I would have figured it was a Steeler dog today.
Well, I gotta go with who I'm supporting, like Tommy said. I mean,
he wears his heart on his sleeve. He wears the heart on his sleeve.
What can you do? Hey, Tommy, I need the 156 cameras in this office. When's that coming?
Yeah. Holy cow. Could you imagine that many cameras? Holy cow. What are you? I'm guessing it's drones. I'm guessing it's some pro style stuff with fixed cameras, but 165 cameras for the Super Bowl. Boy,
that's crazy.
Hey, let me ask you guys before we get to breaking down the game and our predictions and NFL honors and all that stuff. I have to tell you, maybe it was just me. I was tuning in to the NFL Network this week, CBS, the CBS Sports Network. There wasn't a lot of good programming, at least at night. I mean, it could have been during the day, but there was no good programming. And here's another one: there was no buzz on this game, John. Did you feel it? Do you feel that there's a big buzz for this game?
I didn't feel it at all, Tommy. And I think it is because these two teams were here 5 years ago. And there hasn't been a whole lot of changes. And, I think that people were so let down by Detroit losing.
Yeah.
There was such that following with those guys. And what happened here, it's just kind of a letdown across the nation. I mean, except for these set fan bases, I don't feel the buzz at all this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, obviously we talked about it Thursday, but the Lions not getting here would really put a damper on this. And I think, to John's point, I think unless you're in San Francisco or Kansas City, it's just it's more just I'm going to watch the game. There's no excitement for it.
Well, you know what, Tom? You got to look at it this way too. You could see something about the game everywhere. On your phone, the laptop, on TV, on the radio. There's an oversaturation of it at this point in time. It's almost impossible to listen to all of it, But yeah, you are right. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of a buildup. I didn't even really see that many articles.
No, if you read I read the Post every day. There's 6-7 pages in the Post. You see stuff online, but there's no buzz. People aren't talking about the game. There's no water cooler talk. I mean, I was at work all week, and nobody brought it up. Nobody brought it up.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, sports radio.
A lot of people are tired of seeing the Chiefs in there anyway.
I think that's a big part of it, guys. I think the fact, and listen, you can't blame the Chiefs and the 49ers, but it just feels like it's the same teams every year. There's no, again, I said when we started this out, I said when the players were kicking off, I would love to have seen the Dolphins and the Lions, two brand new teams. And again, I know the Dolphins have been there, but it's been 40 years since the Dolphins got there. It's been 100 years since they won one. The Lions. We needed a different Super Bowl, guys, John, and we just didn't get it.
I agree, Tommy. I think the country is looking for that. I think that when you bring in some new teams, you bring in fresh fan bases, you bring in a whole new perspective. And I don't know how many people that I've talked to said that they don't even care to watch this. It's kind of like how I feel about the halftime show, but that's another story.
We'll get to that. Don't worry, we'll get to that. So yeah.
But yeah, who didn't want to see Josh Allen against Jared Goff and the Lions against the Bills? A game like that we could really get behind it. But it kind of seems to me like the NFL is gearing so many things toward the financial piece of it anymore that it's almost not even a game. You're taking away the legitimacy of this sport and the things that people appreciate about it. I mean, really, if you look at the NFL right now, and I thought about this, a couple of days ago, are there any real heroes anymore for kids to look at? I mean, I remember Walter Payton was my hero, but there was so many back then that kind of stood out. And nowadays, you just don't have that.
Which is kind of strange, Jeff, because, John's got a point, but it's kind of strange that years ago, we rooted for certain players, even if they weren't in our city. And it was very hard to watch a Walter Payton game unless he was playing the Giants or the Jets or in New York. But I think to John's point, is there Patrick Mahomes is probably the face of the NFL, Jeff, but he's oversaturated with all the commercials and the Chiefs win the Super Bowl every year. Do you get John's point?
I get his point, but I'm got to add to it. I think that we look at the game in a different light now. You're not looking at it like you once were, like a 10-year-old kid that went out on the street and played football, and you wanted to be Walter Payton when we played and everything else, or whoever your favorite player was. Now you could pretty much find any game on any platform and get to watch a lot more football than you ever were before. There's football all over the place. It's almost like you don't have time to concentrate on a single player. I mean, you have games Thursday night. You have 3 games on Sunday. You got a game on Monday night. And then when the playoffs come, I noticed now they added another playoff game.
Yep, Amazon's got a playoff game.
Pay-per-view situation. But it's the point that, like you're not going to see all of these different teams. You could see 6 teams on a Sunday, and between Thursday and Monday, you would see up to 10 teams.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you focus on one player that you never really got to see, like you said, unless they were playing in your market. But, listen, it's different now. You could follow it on your football, on your phone. You got fantasy football. So there's so much more. It's such a broader sport than it once was, and growing.
Yep.
Who knows when it's going to stop growing,
Very true. Very true, guys. And thanks. Welcome to the another Saturday edition of the Sunday Audible. And we're happy to be here talking about Super Bowl 58. And we're going to get to the game a little bit, but I do want to get John's perspective. Jeff and I both kind of agreed that Dan Campbell kind of blew the game last week, 2 weeks ago. And John, what I heard this week from a guy, and I want to get your take on that game, was that, well, all year long, Dan Campbell was 12 of 14 or 14 of 16 going in on 4th down and less than 3 yards during the season. And I was a little disappointed that the host, which I think was Chris Mad Dog Russo, didn't follow up to say, well, yeah, but that game wasn't against the Carolina Panthers in week 6. This is the NFC Championship game against presumably the best team in the NFC. Dan Campbell has to coach differently. John, give me your perspective on that statement from that guy, and also on what happened in basically the second half of that football game.
Well, Tommy, the main thing is if you look at the way that game played out, and Dan Campbell, being a young coach, obviously aggressive, you need to kind of have to look at that as, hey, we need to have points. Points are always at a premium in any playoff game, just the same as turnovers are what changes the outcomes of these games. But I think there was 2 things for me in seeing the end of that game. Number one is Detroit didn't make the plays, first and foremost.
Sure.
If you look at Josh Reynolds and 3 drops,
yep.
Mainly 2 in key situations. One was a 4th down. They were down in I think it was around a 30-yard line somewhere in there. They were making a move to the red zone, drops the pass, and that changes the momentum. And then you look at the touchdown pass that was, that he dropped. I mean, I know there was a corner with a safety coming over top, but the safety was fairly well off before the pass hit Josh right in the hands.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to make plays to win games like this. And when you bring Dan Campbell's piece into it, I understand that he's aggressive. I understand that you convert, but you don't convert plays like that in a championship game in situations like that. You put the points on the board. And the thing what he did was he kind of crushed the heart of that team in those situations. I mean, you guys get down there, you don't put points on the board, and then you put your defense back out on the field. And these guys are the ones that you're setting, which is the weakest point of that team, is their defense. You're putting them in an NFC championship game against Brock Purdy, all those weapons, and you're telling these guys, look, you need to basically win this game for us. And I think the decisions that he made, were definitely most of the reason that they lost that game. I'm going to put the rest on not making plays, and that's really what it comes down to.
I agree, John. Here you are. You're up 3 scores. The 49ers go down the field in the third quarter, and they get a field goal, and they feel like, okay, maybe we're back in this. We're only down 2 scores. Now you're the Lions, and you go down. You take a 7-minute drive. You have the ability to go back up 3 scores. Now you're later in the third quarter. If you're the 49ers, you got to be going, Jesus, man, we got they just went down the field 7 minutes, kicked the field. Well, now we're getting another 3 scores. We got to try to stop them. To me, that was all about putting your foot on the throat. You can't, because now that happens. Now you've turned the momentum a little bit. 2 plays later, they complete what Jeff calls one of the luckiest, best plays we've ever seen.
Right.
And now it's 7 points, and the momentum's completely gone. And then you got a chance to get it back, and you give it away. To me, that's poor judgment on Dan Campbell and a guy who's not picked up on the fact that you got to coach each game differently, especially when you get to the playoffs. Jeff, you cannot go into the NFC Championship game with the same game plan or mindset that you do Week 7 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jeff. You can't do it.
Well, listen, I hear you, but the one thing that everybody's blaming Dan Campbell about messing up the 4th down plays, and I understand that. Nobody's saying that his defense folded like a house of cards.
I agree.
Okay? You're up 3 scores. You need to keep that. Okay. Now San Francisco scores a field goal. You need to all right, listen, we don't need them to get momentum. You got to shut them down. And they didn't. And then when you go for these plays, whether you're aggressive or not, I agree. You got to put the points on the board without a doubt. It was a stupid move, especially that one, the last one in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
And it was like 5 minutes left. There's no shame in going for a tie in the playoffs. You don't have to try to win it all outright because your defense wasn't doing its job in the first place. So you need to get the points and just stay within striking range. That, to me, would have given Detroit a little momentum, that they tied it and they're back in it. They knew that if they missed that 4th down, that was it.
Yeah.
And it turned out that way. But, I mean, listen, if it wasn't, they almost got the onside kick later on in the 4th quarter, the last couple of seconds. They still had a chance up until that point, but, too much to worry about and to have to go completely perfect in order for you to have a chance after that. So, it is what it is. But, would they have been a better fit to go against the Chiefs? I would have liked to have seen it. Yeah. I think it would have been a cool game, but that team has to look within and see where they went wrong and correct those mistakes.
John, Jeff brought up the onside kick, but the honest truth is, Dan Campbell made another big blunder. When they were going in for the touchdown, third down. Now, if you're going to run the ball on third down, you have to have 2 plays called in the huddle and get right back up there. But when they didn't get it running the ball on third down, they did what they couldn't do, and that was use a timeout. And it completely changed the way they had to play the end of that game. So, do we chalk this up to inexperience by Dan Campbell, or do we chalk this up on a bad coaching philosophy?
You know what? I was just going to bring that up, guys, is, Dan Campbell, yeah, he's a young coach, but this guy played in the league. And also, who are his advisors on that staff? I mean, somebody has to be sitting in that box and saying, look, Dan, we need to put points on the board here instead of going for a 4th and 2, or we need to manage this clock. And he needs to bring those guys aside and say, look, we need to have 2 plays called in the huddle, like you said, Tommy.
Yeah.
And there needs to be, number one, what I don't understand is running the ball down there. I mean, San Francisco shut them down in the second half.
But they shut them down twice running the ball in short yardage situations. So why would you go for a third time in that spot and at least not have a backup to say, hey, either we're going to run the field goal team out there immediately or we're going to run 2 plays in a row and not waste the timeout.
Right. And you got to look at the situation is number one, you don't want to waste the timeout. You're looking at the clock. You already lost momentum. Yeah. What are the things you look at in the end zone right there in that situation? I look for Sam Porta and I look for a mismatch somewhere on the outside. And that's what he didn't do. And that was the frustrating part of that for Detroit. We could call this young coaching and we could call it, Just it's mind-boggling to me that nobody came down and said, "Hey Dan, look, we need to have 2 plays called in this situation," or "Hey Dan, it's a 4th and 2. We're in the playoffs right now. We are in the AFC Championship game, which is extremely hard to get to. What's the morale of this team? That's what he did right there. That I thought was the bad point of this game was being too aggressive and trying to take this game on himself instead of coaching smart. To keep your guys in it.
Yeah, and again, I want to ask you a question. Antonio Pierce got the job over in the Raiders, and Antonio Pierce was a good football player, very smart football player for the Giants, for the Redskins, a few teams, and Antonio Pierce brought in Tom Coughlin, kind of as an advisor. I don't know what Tom's exact role is, but Jeff, let me start with you. Do you think these younger coaches, Dan Campbell, DeMeco Ryans, should bring in maybe an experienced NFL coach like a Tom Coughlin, maybe like a Bill Belichick or a Mike Vrabel, Jeff, and have them on the staff maybe during the week or even in the game just to kind of have a veteran guy? Or is that too intimidating to have a former head coach on your staff in case you're screwing up?
I don't think it's intimidating, but I got to ask you the question. Here's a better question for you. If the guy is a head coach in the NFL and he made his way through the league from running back coach to offensive line, the offensive coordinator, or whatever the case is, and made his way through the ranks, why would he need a more experienced name? You're supposed to be making your own experience. You're taking the job. You got hired. I understand your point. The question, but you were hired for that job. You should know the basics and what to do at the time. You brought up about him running the ball twice. The defense, all they got to do is drag their heels a little bit and kill more time on the clock on you. So, that was stupid. But unless somebody said to them, listen, they have a gap on the right side the whole game, you could walk right through there. You just don't run the ball. You don't do it in that situation. We as people, we do this as a hobby. Okay, if we realize that, what don't they realize? And all of these guys have all made mistakes throughout their career, but I guess everybody thinks that they have the winning formula and they're going to do something different and set the world on its ear. But we see that didn't work at that point in time.
Yeah, I think, John, to Jeff's point, to a certain extent, I agree. But, even if you worked your way up through the ranks as coordinators and pay free assistants and all that stuff, it's a different thing when you get on the NFL sideline for a game and you got to manage everything. You have to manage downs and distances, time. It's one thing to manage, your group or your side, but it's another thing to be the big man on campus. Listen, the problem I have with this is most of these guys are extremely young and have never been a head coach anywhere, not high school, not college, and certainly not in the pros. And they're thrown into a situation, and most of them never had to manage a game. Now, I'm sitting on a couch in my house, John, and I'm going, this is what I would do, and I wouldn't do. I'm not into, have a million people in my ear, but some of the stuff just seems, football 101.
I agree, Tommy. To Jeff's point, though, he brought up a good thing what he said is the fact that, these guys have come up through the ranks. They need to understand, some of these situations. But then also, Tommy, you look at it is what's the philosophy of a Dan Campbell or say a DeMeco Ryans in situations like this? These guys are ex-players, obviously.
Yep.
But, is there a point where the ego steps in?
Yeah.
And says, look, I want to make this play, but doing it 3 times like Dan Campbell did, or 4 times actually.
Yeah.
When you're looking at all the things that you're responsible for in a situation like that, the first thing that I think of is, number one, my team's totally lost momentum. How do we get that positive piece of it back? And that's by putting points on the board. You don't want to go through a 7-minute drive where you've totally – these guys beat up the 49ers. There's no doubt about that. They ran all over these guys. They had receivers open most of the game, but they didn't make the plays.
Yeah.
And when you're not making plays and your team is falling behind like this, and a momentum is huge in a playoff game like this, you need to put points on the board, be smart about it, bring the guys on the bench and say, look, guys, we're up by 17 at one point because we kicked a field goal. There's nothing wrong with putting points on a board and kicking a field goal.
No.
Or we tied the game. Let's go back. Let's rally the troops. Let's look at what we could do best here to put this back together. And he didn't do that. That's the final outcome of that game.
Yep. And listen, we'll put the to bed that thing. But I'll keep it on that in a second. I want to just do a quick plug. I see my man Mike Weissman. I've been holding on to our version of the Sunday Audible. That's right, a beautiful smelling fragrance that Jeff uses on his beard. And you can get this and many, many other great products by going to hempwizard.net and visiting the Hemp Wizard Beer Care Company. And Mike does an amazing job of getting the products put together and out to you. So please support local businesses, veterans, and Mike does an amazing job. And we completely endorse the Hemp Wizard Beard Care Company here. And by the way, if you don't have anybody in your family with a beard, or maybe and this beard's not quite there yet for that, you can get his amazing line of skincare products as well. So do us a favor, and we endorse it every week on the Thursday night show. We'll endorse it here as well. And please reach out and get to Mike and his team over at Hemp Wizard Beard Care Company, and support the local businesses. And Mike does an amazing job. And of course, this is personally endorsed by one Mr. Jeff Tolwinski. So anyway, let's move on to the game a little bit, guys. I want to get to the NFL honors. Let's do that first. We're going to end the show, maybe the last 10 or 15 minutes, with the game and our analysis and our breakdown. We were talking about Dan Campbell. One of the things I thought was a bad job by the NFL. Now, I don't know if you guys watch the NFL honors. I caught bits and pieces of it. I watched a good piece of it. A couple issues I had. John, you had mentioned it, and I agree. Kevin Stefanski winning the Coach of the Year, to me, that's a team that should have won. That's a team that should have been a good team. They've kind of actually been a bit of a disappointment. DeMeco Ryans, as a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback, turning that team around and making the playoffs, that was a travesty that DeMeco Ryans did not win Coach of the Year at the NFL honors.
I agree, Tommy. I mean, that's probably the biggest head scratcher of that entire award show. When was the last time we saw a rookie coach come in and do what this guy did? I mean, this team had a 7-win difference here.
Yeah.
Coming in with rookie coach, rookie quarterback. I mean, this guy, he changed the culture of that organization. And I know we always talk about culture and how things kind of come about. When you get a guy that comes in and does what he does, obviously CJ Stroud, you knew this guy was going to be a good quarterback, but you didn't expect that step, in his first season. I mean, you saw this guy making reads properly. I mean, he was poised in the pocket. And the one thing that I always, we talked about this in a chat a lot, guys, is the fact that the Texans never gave up. You saw these guys down by 20 points in some of these games, and it didn't matter what the situation was. This team played for DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is the guy that I consider the Coach of the Year. And it doesn't take anything away from Kevin Stefanski and what he did, because that team had massive amounts of injuries,
Sure.
Going through that many quarterbacks to get to that point. But, when you look at a rookie coach like that and being able to turn an organization around, right off the bat like that, and you're looking for, this team to be excellent for years to come now, I think DeMeco deserved it. It's really disappointing that the NFL and whoever voted for that, let that happen. That's just my opinion.
I agree, Jeff. Kevin Stefanski did, like John said, overcame some injuries. He got there, with a makeshift team basically. But you took a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback and completely turned their franchise around to the point where they went into the playoffs, won a game. That's
A lot of people didn't expect that from them. I know I didn't expect that from them,
Yeah.
especially with a rookie quarterback. And listen, you can only hope that this is a team, maybe how we said that people get tired of seeing the same teams go in year after year, that maybe this is one of the teams that'll change that.
Yeah.
get into the playoffs a little bit more often. And you on more than one occasion, you guys use the word parity, which only seems to happen for a certain amount of teams, not the whole. Like San Francisco's been a good team for the last couple of years. Dallas has been pretty good, although they haven't made much noise in the playoffs. The Chiefs, evidently, and the Patriots when Tom Brady was playing. So you would always have certain teams that were in there, and then other teams that would be like a mix. So listen, it would be nice to see the Texans maybe knock somebody out of the box and get into playoffs a little bit more often and see it happen to other teams too once in a while. To see where we're not watching, because maybe next year we're watching the same Super Bowl. Who knows?
Yeah, but is that really parity? I think what you're seeing parity is you're seeing a very mediocre regular season. Think about the Chiefs up to the last couple of games of the regular season and through the playoffs. The Chiefs were a very average team this year. I know a lot of teams had injuries. Joe Burrow had a lot of injuries this year. Cincinnati took a step, backwards. Obviously, we're talking about the Browns. A lot of teams. The Cowboys had a great season and then fell apart in the playoffs as usual. The Dolphins, great regular season, fell apart. So I don't know what parity means in the NFL anymore. I really don't, because it seems like the Super Bowl's the same teams every year. So I don't know where I guess the parity is. Regular season is just almost played out. Stuff, the same teams will get there, and then the playoffs and the Super Bowl will be all the same. I don't know what to say on that one, but let's move on. Another piece of the NFL honors, John wanted to talk about Myles Garrett winning the Defensive Player of the Year over TJ Watt, which to me was a bit of a travesty. I didn't have as big a problem as John probably has, but I'll let John take this one.
Yeah, it's not the fact that, you watch these teams every year, and obviously being a Steeler fan, I'm going to root for Watt. But, I mean, if you look at the difference that this guy made this year, and I know a couple people brought up a few things in the chats that, Garrett, in some of these games, I mean, he was totally taken out of these games. It wasn't like he was the guy that went over and took over for that defense. That defense was strong all the way around. And TJ Watt, this guy's a game changer. He's kind of like, he's not Lawrence Taylor, obviously, but he's kind of like one of those guys that you have to scheme for, because he does so many things well. He breaks out in coverage. He does, the little things. Myles Garrett, is a great defensive end. I'm not taking that away from him, but this season, I know you can't just look at the stats. You look at the stats and Watt wins right there. There's no doubt about it from what he did. But I'm talking about how this guy changes games and what he did this season. Interceptions, fumble recoveries, and changing like I said, the game.
Yeah.
Watt, for what he did this year, I think if you look at everything and you watch these games and even put, Micah Parsons in on this, for these three, Watt's the guy to change these games. Watt's the guy that did more things better than these other two, and I'm talking about the other things too, like the interceptions and what's he like in coverage. I can't even believe the fact that he didn't get it. I don't even know what more to say, Tommy. I mean, It's just, I don't know who's voting for this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the writers. I don't know if it's players. I know there was the.
It was the fans.
Yeah,
no, it's not the fans.
No, I don't think so. I think
the All-Star game.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl. Yeah.
The other problem I have,
whatever it is.
I don't know what that is now.
I got to weigh in on this one. I got to be honest with you. When you first said it, I figured it was just another, twisted Steeler fan that didn't get something out of the season. And then I went and I looked at the stats. And yep. I have to disagree with you on one thing, and that is that the stats showed a player that definitely had a better season for Watt than for Myles Garrett. So I would have
that's what I'm saying, Tom.
I understand what you're saying, that you can't just look at stats, but in this case, stats, said the whole story. Yep. He had like 3 or 4 more sacks. He had about almost 20 more tackles. They're both defensive ends, right? Watt is right?
Technically, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
So, I mean,
he's a linebacker.
Statistically, he had a better season. So
Right.
why should he should have won? He should have won. I understand that Cleveland made the playoffs for the first time in a while. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. I'm not a Browns fan, so I wasn't watching what they were doing. But that's a team that you see quite often in your neck of the woods, and that they play the Steelers twice a year. I don't know if you see it because of the area you live in, if you see any of their games, but yeah, Watt should have definitely have won that one without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a tough. I listen. I think at the end of the day, 2 weeks from now, nobody's going to remember who won these awards. So I guess, but I can understand if you're a Steeler fan or I'm a Giant fan, I want to see my guys win something, and it's I think it's sometimes you gives us something to talk about. I do want to talk quickly about the Hall of Fame announcement, and I have to tell you, this might be one of the most underwhelming groups for me. There's only one guy I would tell you was a no-brainer. That's from the senior division, and that's Randy Gradishaw. If you guys watched football back in the 70s, Randy Gradishaw was one of the best linebackers I've ever seen. Playing for the Denver Broncos, the Orange Crush. Wasn't a huge name. Obviously, there were bigger guys in that era for them. Guys like Mecklenburg was a little later, but obviously Lyle Alzado, Tom Jackson, but Randy Gradishaw was an absolutely fantastic linebacker and well-deserved for the Hall of Fame. Steve McMichael, go ahead.
I'm okay with that it took him so long. Let the Broncos fans wait.
You're just mad because Catalano breaks your balls every day.
No, not at all. But let him wait. Let him wait. He should have been 60 years before he got in.
Well, he got in now. So, but I do have a big problem with Steve McMichael. Steve McMichael's getting in because, unfortunately, he's dying of cancer, and it's a tragedy. Don't get me wrong, and I feel for him and his family. But Steve McMichael was
Eric's disease, Tom.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Steve McMichael was a good player on a great team. They were a one-and-done team. Steve McMichael's not a Hall of Fame player, and when you put guys in like that, I hate to be that guy because I know what he's going through, but if you're putting people in the Hall of Fame, put them in for the right reasons. Figure out some other way to honor guys like Steve McMichael, who are good players and maybe need to get their name remembered, but not as a Hall of Famer. And the rest of the crowd, I mean, Dwight Freeney was a really good player. Devin Hester may be a great return guy, maybe the best of all time. Are we putting return guys in there? Is that really what we're putting in a Hall of Famer? The guy couldn't make it in the NFL as a running back, as a wide receiver or a running back. So he's that. Andre Johnson, really good player.
You got to give Hester. I understand what you're saying, but Hester holds the record, an NFL record. He's got to go in. If you have an NFL record and it's something like that, touchdown related, you should put him in. Come on, man.
I don't know. I disagree. Julius Peppers, Patrick Wills was a fantastic linebacker. These were all really good players. They're not all-timers. They shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I get you got to put somebody in. I would have been happy if Randy Gradishaw stood on that stage by himself and went into the Hall of Fame as the only one. John, I don't know if you want to weigh in. Jeff, you want to weigh in, but to me, guys, this was an underwhelming group of players that went into the Hall of Fame.
I agree. Go ahead, Jeff.
It doesn't really bother me either way because I feel as though that the players of yesteryear are players to be looked up to, and the players today aren't in the same league as those players. Those guys played 14 games years ago. Now they're up to 17 games. Probably only a matter of time before they make it up to 18 games. So they have extra games to pad their stats and everything else. You're talking about guys that played, for the most part, 14 games and put up some incredible numbers for 14 games. So you don't want to know something. If you take today's player and you put him up against yesteryear's player, you don't have the same player in the first place.
I agree with that, but then you might as well just call it the NFL museum and put guys in there just for the hell of it. But
because when they started out, it was a different situation. You know what I mean?
I got it, but Jeff, you got to hold each era. The guys have to stand out. They have to have. Could you have said any one of those players was the top 5 player in their era? Not one of them is a top 5 player in their era. Not yet all.
I think the only one well, obviously Randy Gradishaw. I mean, if anybody sat back and watched this guy, he was kind of like the Luke Kuechly of his day.
Yeah, absolutely. Good call.
I mean, Gradishar, I'm not saying that Gradishar took games over, but this guy made plays in key situations. Great tackler. I mean, I guess it was kind of like that era where, you had to be that way. But this guy was tough. And every time you saw a Denver game back then, Randy Gradishar is making plays.
Yeah.
And he deserves it. I think the other one that stands out, if you're looking for guys that actually stand out, I think Devin Hester is the guy that stands out. And I agree with what both of you guys are saying. Like Tommy, we putting return guys in. Yeah, Devin Hester, if it wasn't for his ability to return kicks and punts, he's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, he didn't do much on the outside for anything. But, if you're going to put in a player for things that he did well, and this guy was the best of the best, yes, put him in there. It's kind of like Ray Guy, putting him in as a punter. But if everybody else across that list, I mean, Julius Peppers, Dwight Freeney, great players, yes. Andre Johnson, same way, great player. Hall of Fame caliber? No. I think, Patrick Willis, obviously. Patrick Willis was quietly one of the best linebackers in the NFL for a long period of time for the 49ers. Made a lot of great plays, 100-plus tackles every season. But is he a game changer? None of these guys are game changers except for Devin Hester and Randy Gradishar.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a tough group. Yeah, this is a tough group, and these, listen again, Jeff. To Jeff's point, I get it. You make records or you stand out in your era. To make it the NFL museum, and then you put anybody's picture up. You put you have different eras and different things. But when you call it the Hall of Fame, when you're saying these guys were the elite of the elite of the elite, the best of the best, I don't look at this group and see that. I just don't, and that's the problem that bothers me, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Listen, I hear you, but in baseball, we have the same conversation about baseball.
No, I agree.
Have the same conversation about hockey. We'd have the same conversation about basketball. There's people that are playing now that are get an incredible boost to their career by playing 3 extra games. Say you play 10 years, okay? That's 30 extra games over the course of 10 years. Where the other guys would play 140 games, you're now playing 170 games. So even if you're a quarterback and you threw 2 touchdowns in most of those games, think of the numbers alone. We could just go on for, God knows how long coming up with scenarios and numbers for them. But the extra games helps them out. The way the players are conditioned nowadays, it helps them out. But as conditioned as you are, there's somebody just as conditioned on the other side of the ball. You don't have that monumental player like there once was.
No,
the running backs are a position that has been totally devalued, and people would rather have a running back by committee instead of having 1-star running back. Everything is quarterback related and salary cap related. That you're going to see it get worse, Tom. You're going to see it. You watch.
I'm not good, John. You look like you want to say something. Go ahead, finish it up.
What I was going to say is, there was 2 things I want to say. That the classes right now are so much bigger than they used to be too.
Yeah,
I mean, and that comes to your point, Tommy. Is we're putting guys in here. It's almost just for the sake of putting them in.
Yes,
are we doing this to bring in different fan bases to this league? What I'm saying is having a different guy from every team, even though they weren't upper echelon. What's the criteria for getting in anymore? Is it just, playing for 16 years or whatever? And the other thing I look at is how many senior guys out there still deserve to be in there that aren't in there? And I'm looking at a guy like Kenny Anderson for the Bengals. I mean, this guy, he was the foundation of that team for a long period of time. Great player. Still not in the Hall of Fame. Look how long it took Ken Stabler to get in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'll tell you that's the problem is when you start putting guys like Ken Anderson, who when you put his stats up against the guys of this era or even later eras, it's never going to be the same. It just won't match. And you need a grassroots effort. But yes, Kenny Anderson, in my opinion, was right on the cusp of being a Hall of Famer. If he got in, I'd have no issue with it. If he doesn't, I have a little less. But yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of guys that we got to go back and look at and say, why isn't that guy in the Hall of Fame? But for Steve McMichael to get in there essentially because he's sick with Lou Gehrig's disease, I kind of disagree. I'm out of that one. But let's move on to Jeff.
They want to wheel him in for the
yeah.
No, I'm dead serious. I was reading about it last night on ESPN. They're hoping that he makes it long enough that they can wheel him into the ceremony.
Yeah.
And basically, at this point in time, all the guy can do is blink once for yes, twice for no. And who knows if he's going to even be able to do that. He looks terrible. Terrible is an understatement. He looks dead.
Yes. No, you're right. I saw him. Yeah.
It's horrible. I understand that they want to celebrate this man somehow, some way. I kind of agree with you. If he didn't deserve it, why put him in there? Maybe make him an honorary inductee into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, put his picture up there.
Whatever.
Yeah, do a lot of things, but you can't muddy up and murky the water of who is actually a Hall of Famer. To look at that group and say they're standing there next to Joe Montana, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice. To me, they're not in the same league as those guys, and that's the problem I have with it. Is that each group should be compared to the group before that and say, is that guy these guys? And if they're not on that level, they shouldn't get there. And I think over the next few years, we're going to see a ton of guys going in. I saw next year's finalists. There's a few guys who deserve it, but I think you're going to see less and less people on that list. And I can't wait for right now. Next year, Marshawn Lynch is on that list. There's a few guys I'm like, please, dear God, don't let Marshawn Lynch go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, but there's going to be some guys that we're going to see coming up that we're not going to agree with. So, guys, let's get to the game. It's 10 minutes to 10. I want to get to, first off, let's talk a little betting because we're going to talk about point spreads and over and unders. We always talk about prop bets, and there's some crazy ones as always. I will tell you that I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 15 Taylor Swift prop bets alone. Now, I know this is one Jeff's going to put in. Jeff's going to put in this one. Will Taylor Swift and Donna Kelsey be shown hugging during the game? I know Jeff's all over that one. John likes what color lipstick will Taylor Swift be wearing, red or any other color? So, Jeff, I know you guys are all over that one. Let's see. Who will be shown more live during the game? Taylor Swift or Olivia Culpo, who is Christian McCaffrey's girlfriend? Will Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce be shown kissing after the game, Jeff? Is that the prop bet you're making?
Oh, please. I hope that his phone gets hacked and they have some special footage for all of us. And everybody thinks differently of Taylor Swift.
I gotta tell you, I'm all for picking bets. I'm going to make a bunch of bets for this game because that's my interest in this one. Now, I'll get in a second. Let me finish my thought here. But John, there will be a ton of money bet on this game, and while we laugh at those prop bets, John, there's going to be a lot of people betting them.
Oh, that's a guarantee, Tommy.
Are you a prop
I can't even bet.
Are you a prop bet guy? Are you a betting guy?
No, I don't bet too much. I mean, I play fantasy, just with daily fantasy and season fantasy, but I don't usually place bets. But man, I can't even imagine what that list looks like. If you're looking at there's no doubt that Taylor Swift's going to get more footage.
Oh my God!
I mean, that's just and when you look at these bets too, it's what the consensus across the country wants to see. What benefits the NFL more?
Sure.
Than to bring in the younger fan base.
Absolutely.
By putting Taylor Swift on there. And I don't have anything against her at all. Believe me, guys. I don't. I'm just saying what the NFL thinks.
It's not her fault.
Right.
We talked about it Thursday night. To me, it's not her fault. She just showed up to a football game her boyfriend's playing in. And they're talking about already getting engaged next summer. So it's not her fault. And I get why the NFL's doing it. To me, it just gets annoying after a while when you show her after every play or we make a big deal out of this. And, we'll see how it plays out. But to me, this is certainly not her fault. But it definitely gets to the point where I go, I don't want to fucking see this girl. Please.
Why do you want to see her constantly? She's not on the football team. How come we don't see the center's wife or the linebacker's wife or maybe the strong safety's wife? Hey, how about the punter? Let's see the punter's wife.
They don't have 20 million little girls running around who are now going to tune into this game.
I
see what lipstick.
But if you're 10-year-old, whatever teenager is all of a sudden going to watch the Super Bowl because Taylor Swift is boinking the gun on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's this month. What happens when they break up like she did with everybody else? You know what I mean?
I couldn't agree with you
write
more.
songs about how small his Willie is. And you know it's going to happen. It's bound to happen.
It's not that happen.
It's always about money. I mean, now the league is focused on how can we bring in a bigger fan base and what's the best way to do that. And this one kind of just fell right into their laps.
Yeah, well, think about it.
These two are dating, and there it is.
But next year's price of ads goes up because so instead of having 110 million this year, they got 125 million, and it's boosted because of her. So next year they can say, well, we charged you 7 million last year, but look at all the extra advertising you got. So we didn't charge you 8 million this year because look at all the people who are going to tune in. So I get why they do it. It's for that 30-second glitch that some little girl at home is going to go, what's Taylor wearing today? What is she singing? Who cares? And it's the same thing with the halftime show. Let's do a second on the halftime show. I haven't watched a halftime show. I can't even tell you when. I won't watch it again this year. It's even worse this year for me. There's no reason to watch it. I don't know why the NFL does it because to me, most of the people who are really watching this game are guys like us. Why are you not? But here's again, it's not us. They know we're going to watch the game. They want to bring in the people who are Usher fans. So maybe they'll tune in for a few minutes and drive the ratings up. That's why, John, we can't get our bands or people we'd actually listen to.
Has Usher? Has he been relevant the last I don't know how many years?
Can't even tell you.
He hasn't even put out an album.
We don't know yet.
How long?
I have no idea. No idea.
Guys, if you looked at some of the craziness that's going on with this, you believe that the NFL site has Usher-related merchandise on there because of the Super Bowl halftime show. I mean, it's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And that's for any artist too. That has nothing to do with this sport. Nothing.
No.
I mean, you're looking to grow a fan base, and you already know that everybody up there's lip syncing and doing everything that they can't do to play an instrument or to do anything that they have to do to make us a legitimate show. All they're trying to do is to grab one section of a fan base and bring them in. And that's all this is all about. It's not even it's to the point now that it isn't even about the game anymore.
Nope.
When you start seeing merchandise for musical acts coming on the Super Bowl, it's disgusting to me.
Just for the record, Usher albums, right?
Yeah.
Came out in 94, 97, 2001, 2004, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2016, 2018. And then we waited all the way to 2024 so where are they going to expose him on the biggest stage possible, the Super Bowl? So this guy hasn't put out an album in 6 years, and here he is headlining the Super Bowl. But let me ask you something, and I'm surprised you should look this up, see if the prop bet is for this. What is the alternative? There is no alternative. There is no alternative.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know what, again, I don't know who, here's the thing, Jeff, you're never going to satisfy everybody. There's not going to be one artist. There's no Michael Jackson or, maybe Stevie Wonder. A guy like myself, I'm not a huge Stevie fan, but I would watch a halftime show with Stevie Wonder in it. I think that
it's still appealing to a certain demographic.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I don't think you can ever appeal to everybody, but what you haven't been doing is the core group of people like us who watch the NFL every year, who watch the Monday night game against Carolina and the Falcons are never represented in this game for any reason.
I understand that, but everybody complains about the halftime show, which I don't watch either because I don't want to see it. And then Monday morning, all of the posts will start.
Yeah.
And you'll see, well, how come Metallica never gets to play? How come AC/DC doesn't get to play? How come this one doesn't get to play? The point is that there is no music to put on there for the Super Bowl show. You're going to get the bands that you're getting because this is the music that they're pushing.
Yeah, but you just said it. Usher's not even being pushed. So, I mean,
he's being pushed. It's the halftime Super Bowl show time. I'm saying pushed in that, bro.
I get that, but I'm saying is it ain't like Usher's hot out there, or Usher's got 3 albums out in the last 2 years.
Where do you see Monday morning?
I get it, but to your point is if you did that with the band, I don't know. Let's say it was Guns N' Roses, just to throw a band out there. Or Ace Frehley's got a new album out right now. If Ace Frehley was out there, we'd be saying the same thing. Now they're pushing Ace Frehley out there, and he's going to get the bump up for this. All I'm saying is,
are you serious with that one?
I'm just throwing a name. I just happened to be listening to his stuff before. I'm just saying is, it's not like they went and put Post Malone or one of these guys who are supposed to be hot, or that's Taylor Swift wasn't at the Super Bowl.
Look at Post Malone. Yeah. This guy looks like he crawled out from underneath the fucking car. I don't want to see him. I don't want to slow my fucking up.
I got it, but at least you could say he's relevant to today. Usher's not even relevant, so I get your point.
Usher will be relevant Monday morning.
Right, but you could say that if we did that to AC/DC or any other band, they would be relevant Monday morning because they would be
never going to happen.
No, I agree with that. That I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just saying is the same theory that you're using for Usher could be the same thing with any band I could throw out there. Monday morning, they would be relevant again. So it's never going to happen. We're stuck with this because, again, you, me, and John are going to watch this game, and it doesn't matter who the halftime show is, but there are about 70,000 Usher fans who are going to tune in now because they'll watch the right at the end of the half and the beginning of the fourth quarter because Usher's in the middle of that, and that's a few more people that get dragged in. So that's how this happens, and we'll move on because again, it's irrelevant. None of us are going to watch it. We'll watch a YouTube video of it at some point this week and go, all right, it sucked. Thank God I didn't watch it. Let's.
You know what, guys? You know what, Tommy? Sweet. I didn't want to cut you off here, but this is kind of like the Grammy Awards too.
Oh yeah.
When you look at what goes on here at these shows, I mean, it's a joke. And we're forced to believe that this is legitimate. And hey, this person is better than this one. I mean, you look at the ones that are severely talented, that actually work on their voices and they write music and they do the things that you would think that would put them up at the top here. Just doesn't happen. It's always about who's promoted the most and where the money's going to be and how can we benefit from it. And that's what the NFL does exactly with this show.
Absolutely, 100%. Again, so guys, this is Sunday Audible. That's John Mahefker in the bright red there. That's the sexiest man on his side of the screen, Holden, little Basil. And we're gonna give you our predictions for the game and move on.
I went to do this Thursday night and never did. Remember we were talking about who's playing PNC this year in the Garden?
Yeah. Yep.
A couple weeks ago, right on the show. I have the 1987 Madison Square Garden lineup of concerts that goes from March to December. Okay, real quick: Rat and Poison, Maiden, Eric Clapton, Huey Lewis and the News, Jose Feliciano, Luther Vandross, Bryan Adams, Duran Duran and Erasure, Paul Simon, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Madonna, Bon Jovi, Billy Idol and the Cult, The Cure, the Beastie Boys and Run DMC, Motley Crue and Whitesnake, Tina Turner and Wang Chung, Roger Waters, David Bowie, Whitney Houston, The Grateful Dead, U2, The Pogues, Pink Floyd, Eddie Murphy, The Cars, Rush, Yes, and Depeche Mode. More than half those bands are now defunct or have dead members that don't play no more. The music scene is horrendous. When it comes to these halftime shows, I would rather see a fucking magician out there than let some guy go out there with a pack of balloons and make balloon animals because it's unbelievable.
That's it.
The scene is bad. It's bad.
I couldn't agree more. I could
perfectly put.
It's perfectly put. Thank you. All right, guys, let's get to the game itself now. Again,
every show it makes me laugh.
Yeah, let's. Again, I have no buzz for this game. I will tell you that the onus. I think the guy who has the most pressure on him in this game is Kyle Shanahan. Having been the offensive coordinator, one of the worst Super Bowl losses when he was the OC at the Atlanta Falcons, losing to the Patriots, and having lost a few years back in this game to the Chiefs. The pressure's on him. Mahomes and Reed, yeah, they got pressure. They want to be in the upper echelon, but they already thought of as a great team and a great coach, and probably a lot of people think the greatest quarterback. I kind of don't agree with that yet. But having said that, Kyle Shanahan has the most pressure on him. But I do not think he has the best team. I think the Chiefs have run the gauntlet with the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Ravens. They are playing the best football. They have the best player right now on the field, and they have the best unit on the field in the defense. Spagnuolo's going for his 5th defensive coordinator Super Bowl title. To me, this game comes down to defense, and I think the Chiefs will play better. This will be a Chiefs win, 24-17, 24-21. In a I won't say low scoring, but not the thoroughbred race some people think it's going to be. I like the Chiefs in this one. John, I'm going to hold yours to last because I already heard Jeff's, so I'm going to make yours the last one. Jeff, you want to throw out your thoughts on the game? Have they changed?
Yeah, I'd like to see the Chiefs win, and I'd like to definitely see the score reflect 5 and 9 as one of the numbers in the final, so that I win on my box. I would have to say that I want the Chiefs to win 35-19. That's my prediction.
That's a good prediction.
That's a good prediction. Johnny, give me your breakdown of this game. How did obviously you're picking the Chiefs, so how did the Chiefs win this game? And how do they lose it?
Well, I think how they win it, obviously, Tommy, is running the football, doing what the Packers did and the Detroit Lions did to the 49ers early in these games, was the fact that they ran the ball on these guys. And when you go into a Super Bowl the way the 49ers are and having to come behind for the last 2 games, these guys have to be beat up a little bit. And Andy Reid's going to exploit whatever your weakness is. And I've seen the weakness of this 49er team, especially towards the end here, the last few games, is not being able to stop the run early in games. So the Chiefs are not going to go in there. They're going to set the tone early, yes, but they're also going to keep the foot on the gas. It's not going to be, going for it on 4th and 3. It's going to be putting points on the board. I think the way the Chiefs win this game is by not turning the ball over, running the football, and not making mistakes. That's really, any of these games come out to a mistake in a key situation. And I think the way they lose it is the same, is making mistakes. Mahomes not playing his game, trying to force throws, not getting comfortable in the pocket. I don't see a way where Andy Reid is not going to be prepared for this game. Based on that's why this team gets here every year, is because you got a coach there that, not only understands what his strengths are year after year, but he has that core coaching staff around him, like Spags. Spags, what he did to the Ravens in that game was, he totally shut those guys down. So I think that's the side of it that's going to win it for the Chiefs. And I'm going to say that it's going to be a similar game to what we saw with Detroit and the 49ers, but I think KC is going to put the gas on when they need to and score points when they need to. I think it's going to be like a 30-24 game, something like that. There'll be a few field goals in there. I think Harrison Butker is one of the best kickers in the league. So I think that when you have an opportunity to put points on the board, that guy's going to do it. Defense is going to be strong. I say big game from L'Jarius Sneed. I think that guy's a great defensive back. I think another guy that stands out for me on the Chiefs is Karlaftis. You don't look at, this guy as one of the standouts because he kind of slides under the radar, but this guy makes plays when he needs to. He's constantly involved. I think you're going to see a big play by him somewhere eventually. And I think the Chiefs just are a better coach team and more solid as far as discipline than what the Niners are. So I think it's going to be one of those games, 30-24 Chiefs.
Yep. My problem with the Niners, guys, is they have not really played. They outlasted the Packers and the Lions beat themselves. So to me,
Right.
The 49ers have not won a game in this playoff run. Obviously they get the win. I'm not trying to take anything away. They won the game, but had the Packers played just a little bit better, they're not there. And if Dan Campbell doesn't blow that game and there's a bunch of drops and they fall apart in the second half, the 49ers defense has not been good. They have not stopped the run at all. Purdy has been okay. He's not been the reason why they would have lost, but he certainly wouldn't have been the reason why they won. Brock Purdy gets a pass here because this is the first time in the big spotlight. But I don't expect him to be great in this game. I expect him to be good. Okay, I don't expect him to be great. But at the end of the day, I don't think they have enough defense to stop what happens on the other side of that on the other side of there. And I don't think their offense is. I think Steve Spagnuolo's defense is just too good. I think he's just too good in these spots now, and I think he's overlooked, guys. He's a guy that really wasn't mentioned by anybody this week. And here's a guy going for his 5th Super Bowl with the second team. Talk about Hall of Famers. There's a guy who should get in the Hall of Fame someday.
Well, didn't he win Super Bowls with Kansas City in the past?
Yeah, he won. He won last year. He won. I think he was. He was the one 5 years ago.
For a while.
Yeah, and he won. He won with the Giants. So
Rams. Yeah,
with the Rams. So this is a guy who's. I'm sorry, right? 3 teams. So yeah, again, I think this. One thing I'll say about this, guys, I think this could actually be a good quality football game where good coaching wins the game. Like the average fan will not love this game. I think it's going to be almost boring, but a good, solid football game. I don't think it's going to be a running up and down the field type of game. I really don't think so. I could be dead wrong, obviously. But I think this is going to be a good football game and a chess match, maybe. I don't think bad coaching will be a factor in this one. I just think this will be a good football game, and almost to the point where I think last team has the ball will win it.
I don't know about that. I think that Kansas City, if it's going to be a Kansas City victory, I think they'll have it in hand before the 4th quarter.
Okay.
They just have too much experience at this point in time of the season to let it slip away. You got Andy Reid. I mean, God, has there ever been a championship game that he hasn't been in? You know what I mean? He's been in so many of them. It's unbelievable. The guy knows what he's doing. It's almost as good as Bill Belichick being there.
No,
great coach.
No, yeah, Jeff, couldn't agree more. That's why I don't think coaching or bad coaching will be a factor. But listen, it's one of those games where you're going to have to make some decisions on the fly for both coaches, and hopefully they push the right buttons. But again, I think for the casual fan, you will not be on the edge of your seat with touchdowns flying all over the place. I think this is going to be one of those games where you kind of, you're kicking field goals here and there. You're getting a touchdown here and there. There's a lot of good defense. And I think the casual fan will kind of just be looking over the shoulder going, when's Usher coming on? And I think that's the difference. But I do expect a good football game. And I'm hoping for one. I don't care really who wins, but I will be pulling for the Chiefs in this one. So, guys, we'll end the show right here. Jeff, I'll let you give your final word. Do you have anything you want to add to this?
I think it's going to be hold on, I got to move this one. I think it'll be a good game. Listen, I want to see Kansas City win, so it brings Mahomes closer to possibly passing Brady for the record of most championships, because let's face it, I don't think there's anybody else in the league that's going to ever be capable of doing it anytime soon.
Right.
All right, John. Give you a final word on this one.
I like what Jeff had to say there too. I agree.
You both haters.
I think really, when you look at this game, Tommy, and you said it earlier, I don't have like a, if the 49ers win, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I look for different things too. And one thing that I pull for is Christian McCaffrey, because of, this guy has been a great player in this league, with Carolina, even at their worst, and now to have this opportunity, I think that's one guy that's deserving of a championship. And I think as far as Spagnuolo and what he does for this game, he's going to make Brock Purdy beat them. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to you can't put this game and have Christian McCaffrey have free reign, plays out of the backfield and running all over the place, because he's the guy that sets the tone for this team on offense. There's no doubt about that. So I think we're going to see a good game here, Tommy. I agree with what you just said. I don't think it's going to be up and down the field craziness.
Yeah.
I think you'll see, I think you'll see some big plays, though. I mean, Rashee Rice and, Deebo Samuel, obviously, those guys are monsters. But Brandon Ayuk, like I say every week with that 49ers team, that guy's an underrated receiver.
Yeah.
He makes plays in key situations. And I think both of these teams have the talent and you're not going to see a Josh Reynolds-esque game out of any of these guys. So I'll leave it right there.
All right. Well, guys, there you have it from three NFL experts and guys who will probably be watching the game with each other as on our thread like we always do. And hopefully we'll get one more show in before we close the NFL season for 2023-2024. My schedule's a little tight the next couple of weeks, but I'm going to try to squeeze one in next week with John and Jeff if they're around and close the door on the season. Of course, we're right on the door. The NFL doesn't sleep. Well, you have the combine coming up. The draft is around the corner, and pretty soon you'll have mini camps and all that. So the NFL's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 now. Other than June. June's the one month of the year June the NFL takes off. But other than that, we want to thank you guys for tuning in these last few weeks. It's been a blast to get back together with John and Jeff to do this show. And hopefully, like I said, we'll get at least one more in before we close the book on 2023-24. So, having said that, thank you for tuning into the Sunday Audible. Thank you to our sponsor and Mr. Mike Weissman and Hemp Wizard Beard Care Company. We really do appreciate their Sunday Audible fragrance. Go to their website, hempwizard.net, and support small businesses. Mike's a veteran, and he's a great man in the community, so please do that. And remember, you got the Talk in the Fast Lane podcast, which John does. Check them out. And, of course, Thursday nights with the Hard Rocket Sports Show with Jeff and I. Make sure you support all of us when you can. So, again, we'll wrap this up for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who watched and listened. And we do appreciate your support. So, for Jeff Tomlinski, John Marhefka, and myself, I say thank you from the Sunday Audible. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And we'll see you on next time. Guys, I got to run. I'm heading out to Pennsylvania. I love you both. And I will talk to you boys soon.
See you later.
Head to Pittsburgh, Tommy.
not quite that far, John, but one of these days, I promise you, my brother.
You got an open invite here, brother.
You got it. Talk to you guys soon, and everybody enjoy the game. See you next time.
Later, man.
See you guys.